Hello, this is KiwaniTalk. I'm Ray Scaboria. I'll be your host for this evening's program. KiwaniTalk is a public information program brought to you from the facilities of WDHS at Dearborn High School by members of the Dearborn Kiwanis Club and students that help us record the programs. Tonight, we're very pleased to have as our guest, Charles Miller. Charles Miller, it's nice to have you with us, Charles.
Very good to be here,
Charles
Ray.
is the organist at Cherry Hill Presbyterian Church. And I'm going to ask Charles to give us a little background of his learning to play the organ and building up to some of the places he's played.
Sure. Well, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me. Becoming an organist is really a lifelong endeavor, and it all began because my grandmother was a church organist and a piano accompanist on Chicago radio, and was a studio musician and accompanied a large number of other musicians. But she had a piano and an organ at her home in Traverse City, Michigan, where I grew up. And I grew up hearing her play every morning when I would stay with her. And it became something that just I couldn't stay away from. And so I began piano lessons at age 5. And until my legs grew long enough where I could reach the foot pedals of the pipe organ, then I was able to transition and make the change to the pipe organ and begin pipe organ lessons around age 10 or 11. I think I was in 4th grade, I think, when this happened.
I'm going to stick something in here. I have a granddaughter, and she started to play the violin at 5, and she's still playing the violin.
Okay.
She's a junior at Toronto University, and she plans to make that her career. So that's the way it is in music.
Yes, and certainly it's lifelong learning. And you know, when you make the jump from the piano to the organ, there's an added element, a significant element, because the organists play the foot pedals. And so you have to learn with your 2 feet how to play another keyboard and the coordination that comes along with that. So it really took a good 5 years or so for me to really develop that coordination. It's very similar to like tap dancing and playing the piano at the same time.
And the thing is, you're still looking at the keyboard up here, and you're not looking at your feet most of the time, are you?
Try to not look at your feet, but sometimes you do. And then after private lessons with a teacher in Traverse City, I was able to audition and was accepted into the Interlochen Arts Academy there in Interlochen, Michigan, as a 4-year high school student. And the academy offered basically a conservatory-style education, in addition to wonderful academics. And it's still, Interlochen Arts Academy is one of the noted private schools, not only just general private schools, but private schools for the arts in all of America. And so I'm grateful for that education. And I had a marvelous teacher, Robert Murphy, who guided me through the steps to become a disciplined musician. And so my 4 years there were remarkable and productive, and that allowed me then to audition for and get into University of Michigan, where I studied with Robert Glasgow and completed my undergraduate degree there in pipe organ performance and church music.
You basically had 15, 16, 17 years of training before you really went out and played anywhere professionally.
Correct. Correct.
Although you may have played at concerts and things like that.
Yes,
it wasn't a paying job.
Right. I had a church job from starting at age 13. My first paycheck came as a 13-year-old at Trinity Lutheran Church in Traverse City, my home parish. And so I had a church job all the way through. And then high school and college afforded me opportunities to go out and perform, and also to enter competitions. So I spent a lot of time preparing for those things, in addition to my regular church duties.
Well, we had a little ulterior motive in setting this interview up, and what it is that our church has an organ that was originally installed in, I think, 1952. Is that right?
58. Yeah.
Oh, 58. I'm
yes.
sorry, quite a while ago.
Yeah.
And like all things that are mechanical, they need work every once in a while. And now is the time. And we've done a lot of work on the pipes and the pumps, and all that stuff has pretty much been done in the last few years.
Correct.
But now the main investment that we need is basically a new console. It's not.
That is correct.
And the new console on an organ. Describe the complexity of a new console a little bit.
Yeah, the organ console is really the operations center, and in some ways it's very akin, if you look at it, to a cockpit in an airplane. All the controls and knobs and buttons and lights and all of that sort of thing. It really is the operations center. There are 3 keyboards, and every one of those keyboards operates a different section of the instrument, and the foot pedals operate the lowest bass notes of the organ, and makes the 2,200 or so pipes speak. The keyboards are beginning to wear out. The operation, the mechanics that move and change the different stops and the sound colors, that is beginning to show wear and tear and significant unreliability, to the point where sometimes during the course of a concert or a church service, the organ system will bind up and stop working, and we have to shut the organ off to reset that mechanical system. After 66 years, as you said, of continual use, not on Sunday mornings, but for special services, for concerts, for organ students from the universities to perform and practice on, for the annual Boar's Head Festival from 1972 through 2009, hundreds and hundreds of performances on that instrument. Leather and wood and metal all show fatigue. This is the same thing that happens in an automobile. A piston will only go up and down so many times before it just becomes tired. And bumpers rust and things fall off and bend and twist, and you hit a pothole and the whole mechanism is changed. So we're at a point now where the instrument is, the console is not going to function much longer.
Yeah. So we have made plans, okay?
Yes.
And the plans, they weren't just made. We've been working on this a while. I mean, you have.
Correct. Yeah.
And so what is the schedule, and we might as well mention the cost.
Yes. Originally, our plan was to have all of the 5 sections of the pipework and the wind chests taken care of first, and then the console would be the last major part of the renovation process. But the console began to show significant signs of deterioration within the past 2 years. And we had to reorder our thinking and put the console as step number 3 of the 5-phase process. And so that's why we started this process last year of working with the Austin Organ Company, the original builder of the instrument. They're located in Hartford, Connecticut. They have begun the redesign process for a new or a new-to-us console. The console itself is about $150,000. We're very fortunate that the Austin company had a console shell, the outside heavy-duty wooden case in which the keyboards sit and the pedal boards attached. They have one of those in their factory from an instrument from a church that was taken out because the church got a brand new pipe organ.
Okay.
And so we're being kind of green, if you will, and earth conscious, and being able to recycle something and not have to harvest brand new wood at a considerable cost. If we had gone that route, we would be looking at a $225,000 to $250,000 console.
And this console is it's a beautiful piece of furniture. Actually,
Yes.
There's nothing wrong with it.
Right.
And it's compatible with the console we need.
Yes, and they have the shell in the factory already. It will be stripped and painted to match the interior of the church. So what you see now will be what you see in May of 2026. The only thing that'll be different is that the keyboards will be new, the pedal board will be new, all the stops, all of the controls will be new. And the most important part is this old mechanical action that operates all of the stop controls and changes the sound. I have been telling everybody the organ's going to get a new brain. This will be a computerized system made by the Syndyne Corporation, and they're based in Washington State, that will be fully computerized and driven by a very small series of computer machines hooked into the wind chests, and it will allow us to have multiple memories in the instrument, acting sort of like what you have in a car radio. So you have 6 push buttons in your radio for 6 different radio stations, and then you flip to selector B, and then you have 6 more radio stations, and then you select level C, and you've got 6 more radio stations. So you don't have to reset all or use your dial to find things. It's the same technology in pipe organ form. So that way, all of the music and the sounds that I need for wedding music and funeral music and Sunday morning and the choir anthems and the works of Bach and the works of Widor and Vierne can all be stored in that computer memory for instant recall. The other wonderful thing is that the organ would have the ability to play itself. So I can program the organ to play a hymn or a choral accompaniment, and I can tell it to play, and I'll be able to direct the choir and not have to do the play with one hand and direct the choir with the other hand.
Which you do now.
Yes. That will also allow me to play organ duets with my own playing underneath it. So I record a part and then I can play on top of it. So it just increases the whole musical scope of what we can do.
Well, at this point, let's put what the immediate budget is and where we're at on that.
So in addition to the $150,000 for the console itself, we're getting 12 new bass pipes that are 32 feet in length. Basically what the bass tuba of the orchestra would play, those very low bass notes. We're getting new pipes, and so that's an additional $35,000. So our total cost is $185,000. As of January 1st of 2025, we had $120,000 in the bank, and as of March 30th of this year, we've raised an additional $17,000. So we're at $137,000, and our goal is to raise approximately another $43,000 of the $65,000 really that is left.
Yeah, and that's all shooting for the installation of the organ. Is it May?
We're looking for May or early June of 2026.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And so we didn't expect to come up with the money on a heartbeat or anything like that, but we just like to let people know that if they'd like to help us out, we'd appreciate it. And the way you would do that is just send a check to Cherry Hill Presbyterian Church,
Correct.
with organ in the, you know.
Yes, and online on the church's website, there is a place where you can click on the icon and donate to the organ fund that way. And we're not necessarily looking for, you know, someone to write us a check for, you know, $50,000. Can you buy, you know, one key at $115 or one stop for $125?
Yeah.
Can, you know, all of those little gifts add up.
Because when we're done, many people will have donated towards this.
Correct.
And
Correct.
They may not all be church members. Some might be. We have a lot of musical performances at our church, and I hate to say it, but more people come to those than come to church usually.
Sometimes, yes, yeah. But, you know, we have a lot of supporters in the Dearborn community, which is one of the reasons I really love being here. People who love good classical music. And that show up for concerts for the Friends of the Dearborn Symphony and the Dearborn Symphony concerts, and concerts that are put on by the various church choirs and chamber music series and all of that. So we're very fortunate in this community that we have the kind of support. And again, every $10, every $50 helps, help us reach our goal.
Charles, I have to interrupt you because we take a short break.
Okay.
And please join us right after this. I'm here with Charles Miller, the organist at Cherry Hill Presbyterian Church. Hello, I'm Ray Scaboria, and I'm here with Charles Miller, the organist from the Cherry Hill Presbyterian Church. And we're talking about the organ and upgrading it from its current condition. It needs some work. Mm-hmm. I was just talking with you briefly about the bass pipes and that we're going to add.
Yes.
Well, why don't you explain where they're going and
you know, the wonderful thing about the pipe organ is the wide sonic range. I mean, it literally is like the symphony orchestra played by one person. When we're talking about the very lowest notes of what the contrabasses, the back row of the string section in the orchestra, and what the tuba would play, those deep, thunderous bass notes. Organ pipes covered that same kind of sonic gravity of the instrument. And those pipes are between 16 and 32 feet in length. And some pipe organs around the world have pipes that are 64 feet in length. You can hardly hear them. They're just a low growl, but they create a sound that is really felt throughout the room. And it's that feeling, that seat rumbling effect that the pipe organ gives that really is the thrilling part about the instrument. And so Cherry Hill, in addition to getting the new pipe organ console, we'll be getting 12 new 32-foot length organ pipes to cover. It basically sounds like the low tuba sound of the symphony orchestra, and those will be installed when the console goes in as well.
I know the foot pedals all play certain pipes now. When those pipes are in, does that change the arrangement on the foot pedals, or would that be switched when you want to use them?
It'll just be another stop on the organ that is available. Stop. Yeah,
and it changes the pitch of those pedals when that stop is actuated.
Yeah, exactly. The pipe organ is a fascinating instrument. When I was in Washington, D.C., at National City Christian Church as their director of music and organist, we had a noontime organ recital series every Friday, which I called Magical, Mystical, Musical Machine. And we featured the church's 140 rank pipe organ on that series. And it's a wonderful thing, the pipe organ, still to this day, with the exception of the computer systems that operate the instrument. Everything is still handmade. The metal for the organ pipes is created and rolled out into sheets and cured, and then cut, and then formed around, they call them the wooden forms, they call them mandrels, big tubes around which they form the metal. And it's all hand soldered and put together and then hand voiced with like dental tools to make the individual sounds, and they're all different. All of the wooden organ pipes are, wood joinery. And so this machine that happens to make wonderful musical sounds is handcrafted by artisans with old world techniques and old world tools. The only thing we really have to stay away from these days, unlike in the early 1900s, is the use of lead. They've had to come up with different metal alloys for organ pipes. Not that we can't use existing lead pipes, but the new pipes that Cherry Hill will get will most likely be a combination of tin and aluminum and zinc, probably, to make sure that those 32-foot pipes stay in their upright position and don't bend.
How far back do the organs go? I know it's quite a while, but about.
We're talking a couple hundred years BC. It all began kind of with panpipes.
I see.
And then an inventor by the name of Catsebius, 100 BC maybe, created a hydraulis, which was a water-driven instrument that the water pressure created air pressure, which operated the bamboo pipes. Okay. And they figured out a very rudimentary kind of way of creating these little slabs that allowed you to open and close the little bamboo pipes. And that was our first keyboard. Okay. And over the next few centuries, those instruments were made a lot more powerful. They figured out how to make better pipes, metal pipes, other wooden pipes, and increase the wind pressure. And those instruments were used at jousting matches by the gladiators to make noise during those tournaments.
Well, we'll say in the Middle Ages, they built these around Europe. Most of the large cities in Europe built huge cathedrals.
Correct.
Many of them are still standing.
Yes.
Yeah. And I assume that most of those cathedrals eventually got an organ.
Correct. And the instruments back then would have been what we call mechanical action.
Yeah.
Where between the keyboard and the little valve which lets in the wind underneath a particular organ pipe, there was literally a mechanical linkage of long strips of wire or wood, very thin strips of wood, hooked together so that when you pushed a key down, it pulled a lever, which then pulled another lever, which pulled a lever down and let the air into the pipe.
So you had to be strong.
Yes, you had to be very strong. And often the consoles were a fair distance away from the organ pipe, so it was very heavy. And then, of course, with the advent of electricity, electropneumatic action instruments were built. And now it's all by electrical impulse. So when I push a key, there's an electrical impulse that happens that goes through a wire that goes to a little computer board inside the organ that directs it to the little valve under the organ. And it's instantaneous.
Yeah. So those organs in those cathedrals over there, they've been through a few updates by now.
Yes, yes.
Or maybe complete replacement.
Right,
I don't know.
numerous updates, and I think the one of the most famous instruments in the past 5 years has been the grand pipe organ at Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris. Because of the fire in the cathedral, the organ had to be fully removed and cleaned and put back in, and that had been the fifth or sixth major rebuild of that instrument over the course of the past several hundred years.
And when you go into those cathedrals, the organ is part of the display of the cathedral because the pipes are mostly all in view. Wouldn't you, is that correct?
Yes, yes. In many of the cathedrals, the organ pipes are in view. Cherry Hill's a little bit different, where the church leaders in 1958 decided that they wanted to have a clean-looking sanctuary in the front. They did not want to have visible pipes, and so we don't see any of the instruments.
You have to get up and turn around, and you can see a few of the pipes in the back of the church.
Yes, there are some pipes in the back of the church that are visible.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. Our instrument is mostly heard and not seen.
Yeah. It really gets to you.
Yes,
You know?
it's a commanding sound, and we're fortunate to have a room that has very fine acoustics.
Yeah. Well, I have a little something. It's not much, but it's one of those
Wonderful
small amounts that will
Great.
will make the goal a little closer.
Great,
You know?
much appreciated. Thank you so much.
And by the way, if anybody enjoys the organ at Cherry Hill Church, whether you're a member or whether you just like to come to musical events and you'd like to make a little donation, they can be addressed to the church, Cherry Hill Presbyterian Church, and just put in the comments, put organ, and that'll be enough. It'll be assigned to the organ.
That is correct.
Yeah. So, Charles, thank you very much for coming in and giving us this explanation. And, most people don't realize the complexity of a church organ,
yes,
do they?
They don't.
We know a little bit more now, just a little bit.
Just a little bit.
Okay.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining us on KiwaniTalk. Join us again soon.